The Galactic Senate shimmered like a living star, a vast chamber of glass and energy suspended within the citadel of Concord. Thousands of alien delegates filled the circular tiers, their iridescent forms flickering in the light of distant suns. Above them, the imperial crest spun in silent majesty, a silver spiral encasing the words "Eternal Dominion through Unity." The Emperor's voice thundered across the chamber, magnified by ancient translators and the hum of artificial gravity. "Let it be recorded," he declared, his tone ceremonial yet venomously satisfied, "that the species known as Homo sapiens is hereby confirmed extinct. Their home world lies barren, their colonies erased, their weapons silent. Humanity is no more." Applause erupted, a soundless pulse through the neural links that connected every senator's mind to the imperial network. Some clapped with their clawed hands, others flared their bioluminescent throats in celebration. The extinction of humanity was not merely a declaration of victory. It was the exorcism of a nightmare that had haunted the galaxy for centuries. For most, the humans had been a warning from history. Primitive and unpredictable, they had waged wars without logic, defied empires with sticks and fire, and then, somehow, learned to bend the stars to their will. The archives recorded how they refused every treaty, every offer of assimilation. When the Empire had unleashed its fleets upon Earth, humanity had not begged for mercy. It had answered with fury. Entire planets burned before the humans finally fell silent. But that was 200 years ago. Senator Vurek of the Drax Coalition rose from his seat, his chitinous armor gleaming. "At last, the galaxy is purified. The human plague is gone. Their ashes enrich the void." A murmur of agreement swept through the tiers. Yet one voice broke the harmony. A quiet, tremulous tone from a small, silver-skinned being near the lower ranks. "Your Excellency," said Senator Illera of the Voss Republic, "what are the transmissions from the Sol perimeter?" The scout fleets report irregular pulses, coded signals of pre-imperial design. The Emperor's visage turned toward her, eyes glowing like molten glass. Fabrications, echoes in the void. The Empire's cleansing was absolute. But "Silence," he snapped, and the chamber obeyed. "Do not summon phantoms where none remain." Still, a faint unease rippled to the gathered senators. The memory of humanity lingered in the collective mind, like the smell of ozone after a storm. There had always been rumors, whispered tales of ghost ships drifting through dead sectors, of abandoned worlds that screamed on calms before vanishing again. Most dismissed them as superstition. Yet even the most advanced races in the galaxy could not quite forget what it felt like to fight humans, to face a species that refused extinction. Above the Senate floor, the holographic skies shifted, revealing the shimmering outline of Earth. A dead world, its oceans turned to glass, its continents scorched black. The Emperor raised his hand toward the image. "There lies the price of defiance. May this serve as warning to any who would mimic their chaos." The crowd bowed their heads in reverence. A senator from the outer rim leaned toward his neighbor. "My grandsire fought at the siege of Titan," he whispered. "He said humans sang while they burned." "Sang." His neighbor shuddered. "Monsters. Warriors." The other corrected softly. The Emperor's voice cut through again, calm and commanding. "Proceed with reallocation of their sectors. The Sol system will be open for resource extraction within the next orbital cycle. Let this day mark the triumph of civilization over barbarism." No one noticed a faint distortion that shimmered through the chamber's energy field. It was subtle, like the static of an old transmission, a brief flicker in the Emperor's holographic crown. At first, it was dismissed as interference from the comm satellites. Then the lights dimmed just slightly. A technician looked up from the control gallery, his tentacle fingers freezing over the console. "Imperial Node 7 is fluctuating," he stammered. "Power draw spike from off-grid." "Off-grid?" the Emperor repeated. His tone sharpened. "Impossible. All access routes are shielded." The technician swallowed. "Sire, the fluctuation originates from near the moon's docking perimeter." The senators exchanged glances. The moon housed the Senate ceremonial docks, long in use since the Empire's fleets no longer feared attack. Yet the data streams confirmed it, a disturbance, faint but growing. The Emperor gestured toward a security chief. Deploy the honor guard. Seal the perimeter. The order echoed through the network. But before the guards could respond, the great skylight above the chamber flickered again. A second distortion appeared, larger this time, bending light itself. The transparent dome trembled as something materialized in high orbit, a shape cloaked in darkness and debris. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't even a warship. It was small, angular, old. Magnify, the Emperor ordered. The image expanded across the chamber, grainy at first, then sharp. A vessel floated above the moon's surface, its hull scorched black, its markings nearly erased by time. Yet one emblem remained visible amid the dust and age, a faded flag of 13 stripes, its colors long since bleached, and a fragment of lettering stenciled along the side. USS Valiant. Gasps spread through the Senate like a contagion. "That's human," whispered Illyra. "Impossible," hissed Vurek. Their ships were annihilated. Then explained that. As they watched, the derelict ship drifted closer to the docking platform, engine silent, guided by no detectable energy signature. The Emperor's composure faltered for the first time. "How old is that vessel?" 2 centuries at least," replied the technician. "But, sire, sensors detect a life form aboard." The words hung in the air like a blade. One life form. It couldn't be. No human could have survived this long. No cryostasis could endure 200 years without decay. Yet the readings were unmistakable, one heartbeat, faint but steady. The Senate erupted in a storm of overlapping voices. Accusations, disbelief, panic. The Emperor slammed his hand upon the dais, silencing them all. Intercept the vessel. Retrieve the occupant for examination. The honor guard launched immediately, streaks of silver darting toward the ancient craft. But before they could make contact, the ship's systems awakened. A low hum resonated through the Senate's transmission feed. The vessel's lights flickered to life, one by one, glowing a dull crimson. Then, across every channel, a signal broadcast, primitive, analog, yet somehow piercing every encryption barrier. The static cleared, replaced by a human voice, rough and cold. "Testing, testing. If you're hearing this, congratulations. You survived your own arrogance." The chamber froze. The translator struggled to render the archaic Terran dialect, but the tone required no translation. It was a voice of something alive, something that remembered. The Emperor rose slowly, his gaze locked on the holographic projection. "Identify yourself." The voice answered after a pause, steady and deliberate. "Name's not important. But once, they called me Reaper One." A shiver ran through the hall. The title was known, an old human legend whispered by soldiers during the war. The unseen ghost who turned entire fleets into wreckage. The voice continued, quieter now, almost a whisper. "You declared us extinct. You made it law, didn't you?" The vessel touched down upon the Senate's moon, with the weight of memory itself. Dust scattered across the landing platform as the ancient craft's hull hissed and cooled, steam rising like ghosts from forgotten war. Around it, squads of armored guards formed perimeter, weapons drawn, their visors glowing in synchronized crimson. The Emperor's voice barked through their neural channels. "Capture the human alive. No disintegrations. No mistakes." The ship's ramp descended with a shriek of rust and pressure locks giving way. A figure emerged, framed against the starlight. He moved slowly, deliberately, as if measuring each breath against the thin air of this alien moon. His armor, though faded and scarred, bore symbols that the galaxy had not seen in 2 centuries. The fractured eagle of the United States and the tattered flag patch that clung stubbornly to his shoulder. For a moment, the soldiers hesitated. The figure wasn't large by most alien standards. Just a man, human proportions, age perhaps 40, though time itself seemed uncertain around him. His face was marked by sleep that had lasted centuries. His eyes, cold gray and steady, studied the Senate soldiers not as a prisoner, but as a tactician evaluating threats. One of the guards stepped forward, voice metallic through his translator. "Identify yourself, Relic." The man said nothing. His gaze drifted over the nearest weapon, tracing its contours, then up to the sensor drone hovering above. His lips moved slightly, as though doing silent math. When he finally spoke, his voice was a low growl, unamplified yet carrying through the comms as if the signal bent to his will. Designation, Reaper 1. Rank, Special Operation Command. Mission status, ongoing. A pulse of tension rippled through the ranks. The officer who had spoken raised his weapon higher. You are under arrest by decree of the Galactic Emperor. You will submit for containment and genetic analysis. Reaper tilted his head. Containment, he murmured, as though tasting the word. You still believe you can contain a ghost? Before the officer could respond, the lights across the docking bay flickered again. Every HUD blinked. Every visor flashed a line of static. Then the entire digital grid collapsed. Their weapons went dead. Their suits rebooted. The humans had called it an EMP, but this was older, cleaner, built to paralyze rather than destroy. By the time the guards recovered, Reaper was gone. Alarms howled through the Senate's lunar compound as the Emperor watched the chaos unfold through his tactical feeds. The old Terran ship sat idle, inert again, but its occupant had vanished from every sensor. Telemetry failed to locate a biological trace. He was invisible to their surveillance systems. The Emperor's voice thundered through the comms. He cannot have left the perimeter. Find him. In the shadowed corridors beneath the Senate's foundation, Reaper moved like smoke. His breathing was steady, mechanical in its rhythm. He passed through walls of alien design, ducking between conduits and pulse vents, mapping their architecture with predatory precision. The implants along his wrist flickered, a projection of ghostly blue text scrolling across the skin. Systems archaic yet awake. Mission directive: reconnect the network. Confirm humanity's survival probability. He remembered the moment before cryostasis, the voice of his commander, fractured through static. If humanity falls, you make them remember why they feared us. That order had become his religion. He reached a maintenance chamber, sealed by biolock. The door's control panel flickered once before he placed his gloved palm against it. The nanofibers in his suit adjusted, mimicking the guard's biometrics from earlier. The door hissed open. Inside, a single console glowed with the emblem of the Empire. Reaper connected a line from his armor's gauntlet, the human interface overriding the alien system in seconds. Lines of code cascaded across the display, alien glyphs melting into English letters. A faint smile crossed his face. Ancient fire rediscovered. Still compatible, he muttered. Guess they never learned to clean their systems. Within seconds, he had breached the Senate's internal network. Surveillance feeds from across the citadel of Concord bloomed before him. Every senator, every chamber, every frequency of the Emperor's security code. He saw their panic, their disbelief, their faces illuminated by fear they hadn't felt in generations. Above all, he saw the Emperor himself, calm, calculating, a mass of authority hiding unease. Reaper leaned closer to the console. Let's talk. The holographic projection in the Senate's command center flickered to life without warning. The Emperor froze as the image of a human face appeared before him. Tired, pale, and unflinching. You were right, Reaper said softly. We're not many, maybe just me, but you made one mistake. The Emperor stared, his voice measured but sharp. You should not exist. Humanity is a fossil, a failed experiment. Reaper's gaze hardened. You mistook silence for death. That's on you. Do you seek vengeance? I seek memory. He paused. Your empire built its foundations on the bones of my people. But bones, remember. The hologram distorted, spreading static through the entire chamber. The Emperor's advisors scrambled to isolate the feed, but every system was compromised. Every camera, every comlink, every sensor displayed the same human face. Reaper 1. The Emperor said, attempting control, you cannot frighten us with your myths. The galaxy is united under order. Your kind was chaos incarnate. Chaos, Reaper echoed, almost amused. You call it chaos when something refuses to kneel. The Emperor's composure cracked. What do you want? Confirmation, Reaper replied. You declared humanity extinct. I'm here to remind you extinction is a temporary condition. The hologram blinked out. On the moon, Emergency lights turned crimson as Reaper moved to the final corridor. He was heading for the surface relay, the one system the Empire never disconnected from the Senate. Their ceremonial beacon, broadcasting the Empire's dominance across the stars. He climbed the service ladder, the cold air biting against his exposed skin. Above, the moon's horizon stretched infinite and silent. He could see the Senate's capital world suspended in the distance, a glowing jewel of arrogance. As he reached the relay, he set down a small, silver device. It pulsed once, syncing with his armor. Inside his helmet, data streamed, a heartbeat that wasn't his own. It was Earth. He hadn't dared hope. The faint signal he'd been tracking for weeks was there again, alive, pulsing like a distant drum. Humanity wasn't gone. Not completely. Buried, hidden, but breathing somewhere beyond the dark. A sound echoed behind him, movement. The guards had found him. Dozens this time, approaching in perfect formation. He didn't reach for his weapon. Instead, he knelt, fingers running over the relay's core. "This isn't war," he murmured. "This is a wake-up call." The first shot cracked past his shoulder, grazing metal. He rose smoothly, eyes like gunmetal. His armor adjusted, the nanofiber plates realigning with a soft, mechanical hiss. They fired again. This time, the bolts hit a shimmering field that absorbed light itself. The humans had called it adaptive camo. The galaxy had called it witchcraft. When the smoke cleared, only the echo of his boots remained, moving toward the relay's main terminal. He connected the device, watched the data stream flare to life, and transmitted a single code into the void. Boogeyman active. The relay blazed like a newborn star, its light piercing through the black. Across the galaxy, communication nodes sputtered, encrypted networks flickered, and the forgotten human signal pulsed once again. The guards finally breached the relay platform, but Reaper was gone. Only the burned imprint of his boots remained, and the relay still pulsing in a steady rhythm. On the capital world, the Emperor stood frozen as the message appeared across every holographic feed, written in archaic Terran script none of his advisors could translate. He didn't need to. He understood enough. Boogeyman active. And for the first time since the Human Wars, the galaxy held its breath. The Emperor's throne room trembled as the last of his command screens went black. The phrase Boogeyman active pulsed across every display in the capital, glowing blood red against the obsidian walls. No matter what his engineers tried, the code returned, rewriting their systems, looping endlessly like a heartbeat. Across the galaxy, ships flickered out of contact. Comm relays stuttered, and old Terran frequencies bled through the holonet. Every being who saw the words felt the same cold truth spreading through the stars. The humans were not extinct. The Emperor stood frozen. His reflection shimmered in the dying light of his throne. For 2 centuries he had ruled unchallenged, built empires atop the bones of the human species. Now, the ghost they mocked had risen, armed not with fleets, but with an idea. Fear. Far beneath the surface, Reaper moved through the tunnels like a shadow given form. His armor was cracked, power low, but his pace never faltered. He followed the faint hum of the broadcast core, the heart of the Empire's communication grid. Every step brought him closer to his mission's end. He reached the chamber. The walls glowed with threads of blue light, the air heavy with the thrum of energy. Alien symbols crawled across floating hollow screens, recounting the Empire's proud history. The conquest of Earth, the extinction of humanity, the rise of order. Reaper looked upon those false records, and for the first time in 200 years, he laughed. It was a sound harsh and human, echoing through the sterile hall like thunder in a tomb. He placed his hand on the console. Let's tell the truth. His armor interfaced, sparks dancing between human technology and alien code. Data cascaded across the screens, unraveling centuries of lies. Images of humanity's final stand replaced the propaganda, the battle for Titan, the siege of Mars, the evacuation of Earth. Billions watched across the galaxy as the past returned unfiltered. In a quiet corner of the broadcast, the Emperor's face appeared, filled with fury. "You will not poison my galaxy with your ghosts," he hissed. Reaper's gaze was calm. "Your galaxy?" he said. "We built the roads you travel, the weapons you use, the code your systems still speak. You erase the name, not the legacy. The Emperor slammed the control rune. End this transmission. But the command didn't obey him. The system answered to a different master now. Reaper's voice reached every screen, every outpost, every ship. You declared us extinct. You called us chaos. But chaos remembers. And freedom, he paused, voice steady as a blade, is humanity's default setting. As he spoke, the Lazarus Protocol activated. Across forgotten corners of space, old satellites flared to life. Human technology sleeping for centuries. Terran defense AIs awoke, linking through the network like veins rejoining a heart. Mars, Europa, Titan, outposts once lost in silence whispered their acknowledgement. Reaper opened a secure channel. This is Reaper 1. Mission complete. A faint reply crackled through the static. Copy, Reaper. The grid's alive. We see you. For a heartbeat, Reaper closed his eyes. He could almost feel sunlight again, the memory of wind on Earth's soil. Humanity had survived, hidden deep, rebuilding in the dark. His mission had not been vengeance. It was proof. The ground shook. Imperial soldiers breached the lower corridor, plasma rifles blazing. Reaper turned, raised his arm, and released a burst of static interference. Their weapons failed mid-charge. He moved through them like a storm, silent, efficient, unstoppable. He reached the main relay and placed the final device. Its light pulsed once, then spread outward in a wave visible from orbit. The entire capital's energy grid bent beneath the signal. Screens across the galaxy went dark, then reignited with one image. The human flag, its colors radiant, its stars burning bright against black space. The Emperor stared at it in disbelief. One man cannot undo an empire, he whispered. Reaper's voice echoed across the network, the transmission looping through every frequency. One man can remind it what fear feels like. The capital's orbit burned as satellites overloaded and ships collided in confusion. The citadel of Concord shuddered, its grand towers collapsing into themselves. Amid the chaos, Reaper stood at the center of light and fire, calm as the eye of a storm. He pressed his final command. Mission complete. The blast consumed the broadcast core. The explosion rippled through the Senate's moon, silencing the Empire's network in one final flare. When the light faded, nothing remained of the chamber or the man who had stood there. Only the flag still glowed above the capital world, untouchable and eternal. Hours later, the Emperor's throne sat empty. His fleets drifted without orders. Across the galaxy, suppressed worlds rose in defiance. And through it all, the signal continued to pulse, a whisper threading through space and static. They called him the Boogeyman now, the last soldier of Earth, the ghost who had walked into the Empire's heart and reminded it that extinction was just another word for sleep. In the dark beyond the stars, somewhere between the wreckage and the silence, a faint human voice murmured through the static. Reaper 1 standing by. And the galaxy, once proud and unchallenged, remembered what it meant to tremble.